We are 7 days away from making landfall in the Caribbean. So close now to finishing our circumnavigation. But it seems the ocean has decided we need one last exam. This morning, we awoke to a gale. The wind is the least of our worries, though. It's the sea state that has us on edge. These big organized rollers have been building all night. They've traveled up from a massive low in the Southern Ocean, and they're tossing our boat around like a little toy. Sleep has been hard to come by. The noise inside the boat is unnerving as we accelerate from 5 knots to 25 in a matter of seconds, and then back down to 5. On the bright side, the kids are thriving, blissfully unaware of how close to the edge we are. In a way, knowing that they will mirror our emotional state keeps us calmer than we would normally be. This is the moment right here where you question everything about your vessel. You question things now completely out of your control. Did the naval architect account for the actual weight of months' worth of provisions, fuel tanks, jerry cans on top? Did they design the rudder post in such a way that it won't snap at 25 knots of shock loading? What if the rudder stock does snap? Will we go sideways to the waves and capsize? The difference between a boat that's safe in marinas and a boat that's safe on the open ocean is not marketing, it's engineering. We've learned that the hard way, and today we're going to show you what it means to design a boat for the real world. To start, we're going to dispel a myth about aluminum. Everyone thinks aluminum is the magic ticket. It's not. So they got it out. It looks like it's just one hole that punched through the bottom of the boat and then slowly filled it up. It's not a big hole, like it's maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches across. That's what sunk the boat. Just because something is aluminum doesn't make an expedition-style vessel. Aluminum alone doesn't make a boat safe offshore. So what actually does? We're going to talk rudders, because steering in big seas is nothing like steering in a harbor. We're going to talk haul-outs, because if you can't get your boat out of the water safely anywhere in the world, you're stuck. And we're going to show you what happens when small fit-out details are ignored and the potential consequences. These are the things that separate a boat designed for the open ocean and one designed for brochures. Let's start with the rudder. Rudders come in all shapes and sizes, some long and skinny, some fat and wide, some skeg hung for protection, some with dual rudders. And the reason for all this? It's because boats need different things. This rudder right here is long and skinny. It is a high aspect rudder. You see these kind of rudders on racing boats. They produce a lot less drag with minimal input. Here's a catamaran with a skeg hung rudder. So this is kind of interesting. The skeg completely protects the rudder. So if you're to hit something, going forward that is, the rudder would be mostly protected. Now, you have pintle and gudgeon down here where the pintle and the gudgeon slides in. And then the top, I assume, is a bearing in there and a rod, a rudder stock that goes through here. Now, the important part about rudder design is the cord. The cord is the length from the front to the aft part of the rudder. This is the cord length. And the wider the cord length, the slower the reaction time at the helm. Hold on, the tractor's coming out. Let's take 2 extreme examples and compare. This is a high aspect design. In this case, the aspect ratio is 4.9. But what does that mean in real terms? First, the boat answers the wheel much sooner and with less effort. There's also less drag for the same blade area, and the tip sits in deeper, undisturbed water, so it keeps its grip when the boat's heeling in the case of a monohull, or flying down waves in the case of a multi-hull. So this boat has a high aspect rudder. You see how long and skinny that is? And the reason it is angled is because when the boat's heeling over, it still gives you tons of control. doesn't come out of the water. But here's the catch. If it's really high aspect, it can stall sooner, meaning you lose all steering. This is a low aspect rudder, short and wide. It has the same square meter of blade as the high aspect example, but when you turn the wheel, it creates more drag, and you need to turn the wheel further to get the same response. It also works closer to the surface, so it will ventilate and lose grip when you need it the most. All that said, the stock is much shorter and experiences much less load, less stress on the bearing, less chance of failure. Here are the two rudders side by side, same surface area, completely different aspect ratios. And this is the core of rudder design. It's not about how much blade you have, it's about the shape of the blade and its intended use. So this rudder right here is off a lagoon, and you can see that the chord length, the length from the aft to the front is quite wide, and the depth isn't as high. What that means, it's more of a cruising style boat, which makes sense, it's a lagoon. When we were off the coast of Brazil, heading across the Atlantic and surfing down those waves at 20 plus knots, our lagoon is actually older, so it has higher aspect rudders. Probably, I would say, another foot or two, probably down to here. And what that allowed us to do is have steering input as we're going down those waves and not go sideways to the waves and wipe out and potentially then capsize because the boat, you know, kind of jumps over itself. Lagoon rudders, I get it. They're more of a cruising boat, but also not as performance, meaning you don't get as high average days, not as many nautical miles per day, but you don't get the stresses on the rudder stock that you would on the high aspect. So this right here is an Outremer rudder, and what you'll notice is there's actually a sail drive, which I'm not a big fan of because, well, I'll show you. Huge hole in the bottom of your boat, but in front of that they have a skeg. Now, the skeg is great because it will protect the sail drive if you hit something going forward. Now, we have had friends that had a mooring line wrap around their sail drive at the dock, and that actually ripped the sail drive and the engine off its mounts and caused water ingress. So even like ice pushing at the side of the sail drive, ropes getting tangled in here, nets or anything like that can still yank the sail drive off. So the skeg doesn't completely eliminate the vulnerability of the sail drive. Now, the rudder on the Outremer is kind of like an in-between. It's not super high aspect, but it is, you know, reasonably long. It makes sense because it's an Outremer, and Outremer is more performance orientated. Going back to the chord length, if we were to look at a motorboat rudder, you would see that it probably only comes down to about here. So this is a big aluminum catamaran, and its rudder is actually quite small. But the reason it doesn't need a lot of input is because it's not sailing. So it doesn't need to trim its sails or sail towards the wind direction. It just kind of points and goes. It's a motorboat rudder. Some rudders are a little bit lazy and just lay under palm trees. Which brings us to the next point. These rudders are moving parts. They need service, there's bearings in there. Sometimes they need to come out and be inspected, which means you need to haul out your boat. And the haul out process is somewhat of an adventure in itself, as we've experienced over and over again all over the world. The Western world, or where there's more space in yards and more upfront capital, will use what's known as a travel lift. It's the gold standard, clean, safe, and predictable. Now, most of the world does not use a travel lift. As soon as you get into the Pacific, head further into Southeast Asia, head over to Africa, you will find what's known as a hydraulic trailer. These are trailers that lift from pressure points underneath the bridge deck, underneath the hulls, using beams, using hydraulics. And often those trailers are built in the Netherlands by a company called Rudder trailers as they're known. Now, the problem with that is that most naval architects don't design boats to be lifted from random spots. Boats especially catamarans, are built as light as possible. And in order for that to happen, you can't have structure absolutely everywhere. So today we're going to go look at a typical trailer that they use here in the Pacific. A typical trailer they use as you get further west into Indonesia, Thailand, and further along into the Indian Ocean and Africa. This behind me is what's known as a Rudder trailer. They're Dutch-built hydraulic trailers. Basically how it works is they have a set of pins right here that can extend the trailer out. They have more pins in here that can widen or narrow it. And up here at the front end, it's connected to a front end loader usually, not always, but that's where all the hydraulic lines are and make all those pins move. You might wonder why have a Rudder hydraulic trailer instead of a travel lift, and the reasons for it are, one, they're less capital intensive, so smaller yards don't need to fork out the massive amounts of upfront capital to get a travel lift, and the second thing is that they don't require as much space. Not only don't they require as much space because they don't need the foundation on the sides of the ramp for the travel lift to run down, they also don't need as much space in the yard to maneuver. There's one pivot point at the end, and that front loader can pivot the trailer just like a car trailer, as if you're towing a boat, back and forth, and maneuver the whole trailer into tiny little spots. So they can stack the boats all over the place in little, holes back there, in there, anywhere they want. So it's a small thing to think about when you're designing a boat or when you're purchasing a boat, of how am I going to lift this boat out of the water? But it's a really big thing to think about when you're being lifted on an atoll in the remote South Pacific by a trailer that's built in the Netherlands, by guys operating that trailer that have never seen your boat before, that don't know where to lift it from. And typically what happens, there's a bunch of yelling, a bunch of knocking on the boat, trying to figure out where the structure is in order to not damage the vessel. It is, shall I say, stressful, to say the least, every time we haul out here in the rest of the world outside of North America. So we have contacted and worked with Pierre Delion and his team of engineers to figure out exactly where we can lift our boat from the Nahoa M. There's going to be positions marked on the actual hull that show where they can lift from. Easy way for us to be able to communicate that with the actual lifting crew, and no damage done. I was walking through the boatyard and I stumbled across this. Check this out. This is an aluminum skiff of some sorts. Just a center console boat in there. But it's had some serious damage. So this is probably, I would say, 4 mil. What's really interesting is that the other side has the same thing going on. I have no idea what happened here. So weird. And inside, the actual frames are broken. And at the bottom, it looks like there's light coming through, so the bottom broke off too. It's really weird that on both sides, it has huge gaping holes that are kind of similar. It might have been maybe a design defect and then had an impact. I'm not exactly sure. Definitely wasn't cut open, because you look at it and it's had some sort of impact. Maybe it was dropped. So I just talked to one of the workers here, and apparently the fuel tank went kaboom, as in his own words. It completely exploded. That's why it's all buckled on the inside. You see that? The floor is all coming up. This aluminum skiff had a fuel leak in the bilge area. The fumes accumulated, something ignited, and the hull exploded from the inside out. Fit out is just as important as construction of the hull. Every single detail matters. Crash boxes that absorb impact, watertight compartments so the leak doesn't propagate, bilge pumps that actually work, crash pumps as backup, a rudder design that keeps steerage in big seas yet is bulletproof inshore. They're the difference between a boat that survives a worst case scenario and a boat that doesn't. Our core principle is KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. One bulletproof system, carry the spares to rebuild it, learn it inside out. That's what keeps you alive. There are, of course, other principles. You can build like the FPB did, multiple redundant systems, backup systems for the backups. It works, but they come at a cost, not just in dollars, but in complexity, in maintenance, in headspace.
There's so many things going on in this boat that we don't have to worry about with your boat. It's like a breath of fresh air / just the simplicity. There's a lot of fun that comes to that, right? So you spend more of your time worrying about how you're going to have fun than worrying about how you're going to take care of all these systems. Even though these deliver a level of comfort and performance that you get when you pay for it, there is a price you pay. More than just the dollar amount. Yeah. This is the dual Lacombe cylinders. So we have two in completely separate hydraulic systems. This is the bypass valves. We have another set over there so you can switch between which system you're using. So these are cool. These are machined by CIRCA in the machine shop. So this starts out as a solid block of aluminum. This all gets machined. It's put onto the tiller post that they machine. But just the robustness of that pipe can affix to either this tiller arm or that tiller arm over there, bolts too. And then we have block and tackle.
Right behind you.
Where is it? Yep. So this is not for the spinnaker it's not a boom vang or anything. This is actually block and tackle to allow us to put on the ends of this tiller arm and use it to control the rudder angle or position of the rudder. If everything were to fail and we just took these off, the link arm you'd still leave on, but if for some reason you had to, ultimate failure in the steering system itself, you still have an emergency tiller arm, place to put it, block and tackle to run it with, because you're not going to be able to sit here and hold it. I mean, this is all somewhat theoretical stuff because no one's ever had to use it. But doggone it, we got it.
In the last video that we just published, there's a few haters in there talking about how we're turning into a luxury brand. I think I want to address that because we are not turning into a luxury brand. I will always love boat maintenance, and I always will do the maintenance, majority of it myself, because when you go remote and you have no one else to rely on, you need to know how things work. You need to know what the quirks are of a certain system. You need to know what parts to carry and how to fix it when it does break. So we are not turning into a luxury brand, but yes, that last video did trigger some people because we talked about what it costs to build a high-end, capable, rugged aluminum catamaran. That is always a trigger point for people when we talk about money. And to all the supporters out there, which is 99.9% of you, thank you for your support as we go through this transition from Nahoa 1.0 to Nahoa 2.0. And Nahoa 2.0 isn't a status symbol for us. It is a machine, a weapon to take us places that this boat can't take us. You don't see lagoon catamarans up in the Arctic or Alaska, and there's a reason for that. They just aren't built for that. They're not insulated. They don't have the safety aspects of that, nor do you see them down in Patagonia. So these are all places we want to go. We want to go to them in comfort and with efficiency offshore in terms of speeds. So that's what we're designing and building. Probably end of rant here, but yes, we are not turning into a luxury brand. We are going to continue to do the maintenance ourselves. I hope everyone keeps following us, because sometimes it's scary when people say, "Oh, I'm going to unsubscribe. You're no longer, the tough it out, DIY channel." We will continue to be a DIY channel. We will continue to be an adventure channel, because that's what we love doing. That's absolutely what drives our crank, and that's why we started doing it in the first place. So we just need the right tool to keep doing it. Enough of that rant. To all the haters out there, this is why I'm designing a new boat, because I don't want to have to contort myself and get into engine and mechanical spaces that need to be maintained regularly. Anyways. We're not going anywhere in terms of DIY.